Well. It's amazing what a day can do. Welcome, everyone, to the Trade of Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. And obviously, finally, some news, some progress. How happy are we feeling today? Obviously, stocks are seeing the benefits of this announcement from earlier this afternoon. Some stocks up 60, 70%. So a good day all in all for people that are following this industry, and most importantly for Americans that probably feel like their voice is finally being heard. So let's welcome in TDR co-host Anthony Varell. And wow, look at the feedback that we're getting.
Yeah,
we made it. I'm here.
This is great. We finally got the announcement.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of would like to thank Joe Biden. I'm serious. I think he should definitely get a lot of credit here. He did facilitate this. I know the official report is that the DEA has a proposed ruling that will bring cannabis to Schedule 3. It's headed right now to the OMB for review. And then pending that review, it will then be published in the Federal Register, and we'll have access to what the proposed ruling actually is. That'll be showtime. This is literally just the intro that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, we've got.
But yes, monumental day. It's been a long time coming. So this feels pretty good.
Amazing. We got a star-studded lineup here today on the podcast. We put everything together in the past hour. We have Congresswoman from South Carolina, Nancy Mace, joining us in just a moment, along with the Cannabist Company Holdings president, Jessie, Channon. We also have Don Murphy, good friend from Washington's, coming on in just a bit, and as well as Brady Cobb from Sunburn Cannabis. So let's get right to our guest and welcome in Congresswoman from South Carolina, Representative Nancy Mace. Good to see you back to the podcast. How are things?
Well, it's an exciting day in the cannabis space, right? With word from the DEA. I've reached back home to my folks in South Carolina to see how this will affect the medical Compassionate Care Act that's happening. I know that state legislative members in South Carolina are very excited about this development. Everybody across the country should be very supportive of this development today. It's exciting.
So, I don't have to go into details, as everybody pretty much knows what the announcement was, but I'd like to ask you straight up, put this into perspective. How big is this announcement? Because I think a lot of people that have supported this industry for a long period of time, they finally probably are feeling today that their voice is finally being heard. Do you agree with that?
I agree. And I think it's giving an element of hope to people who've been in this space for a really long time, who've invested all of their talent and treasure because they believe in the plant. And I think it's a real grain of hope, because up until this point, it's been BS, right? A lot of BS. Now the question is going to be, when does the rubber hit the road? When is it actually going to take into effect? When does this happen? Does it get dragged out for the rest of the year? Is it next year? Is it next week? Like, what's the timing of it? But I think it's a real solid, legitimate grain of hope for people in the space who want to do some good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, how does this also catalyze key legislation that's been proposed already, such as the States Act, such as SAFE? Do you think that catalyzes either of those bills and gets the conversation pushed forward more than it already is, or at least loosens people up?
It's a pressure campaign, right? Because Congress hasn't done its job, and now the DEA is going to step in here and fix what should have already happened. And so I think it's going to put pressure on federal and even state to move forward on measures that make a lot of sense and can push the ball forward. I think it's going to be helpful to a lot of legislation and bills that are out there.
Okay. And then also we've had a lot of positive rhetoric. We've had a little bit of negative rhetoric, I guess, coming from certain representatives. Do you see any of those voices getting louder now that it's actually here, that the DEA is going to recognize the change to Schedule 3?
Well, I do think people are going to speak out about it. And if you're against it, you're on the wrong side of history here. I mean, this is something that is wildly supported in red states and blue states all across the country. And, I think it's going to embolden those who've been fighting for a long time for change to even work even harder at this point. I put a call into State Senator Tom Davis as soon as I saw the announcement, and other senators who are pro-medical cannabis in South Carolina, because I think this is going to put pressure on state lawmakers to get ahead of it. And, so I think that'll be a good thing.
When I was there 2, 3 weeks ago and some of the interviews that I had, I didn't necessarily believe some of the stuff that I was being told. But do
Mhm.
you think a lot of politicians in Washington, like you said, bipartisan support, red, blue, they understand the
Mhm.
support that Americans want right now? Do you believe that they know that? And if so, like you said, it will carry more and more momentum and this conversation is not going away?
I think those that are opposed to it are, again, they're not using statistics, they're not using data, they're not
Yeah,
listening to the majority of voices in their district because this is supportive. I look at the data from South Carolina, bright red Trump country, South Carolina. 53% in the last poll about a year and a half ago, 53% of residents across the entire state, statewide, support recreational cannabis. The support for medical would be 75 to 80% statewide, 75% for sure statewide. My district is going to be significantly higher than that. But when you see those kind of numbers statewide, it's
big
almost
numbers.
shocking how
Yeah.
supportive people are, particularly in conservative places. And so that's a good thing. And I hope that Republican members of Congress will listen to those conservative voices, listen to the people and voters in their state who absolutely want to see medical happen.
Hmm.
Do you
Well
see do
said.
you see South Carolina getting to adult use at some point in the coming years, or like let's take baby
I
steps?
think we're so far
Medical's
off.
got
I
momentum.
mean,
Yeah.
Senator Tom Davis and myself, when I was a state lawmaker and others, have been working on it for 8 years. And
Yeah.
Senator
Years.
Davis's medical cannabis bill is the most conservative piece of legislation in the nation. And there's pushback from law enforcement a little bit, but even though it's already, I mean, I can walk down certain streets in my district and you can just smell it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's there. Like, so you might as well tax it and regulate it in a way that protects children, protects those with terminal illness. I mean, fine measures protects our veterans with PTSD, et cetera. You might as well do the conservative, compassionate, common sense thing. Now is the time to do it. And I hope that this will give momentum to folks like Senator Davis and that the pressure's on now.
Yeah. Well, when I look at this industry and the way it's growing, I know that reflects with the smell and a lot of the stuff pertaining to flower. But when you look
Mhm.
at the beverage industry, edible industry, like those are things where you're not seeing a cloud of smoke and smelling. And that's probably the biggest opportunity and as to how
Mhm.
this industry is going to grow. Like I was in Detroit over the weekend. I saw the
Mhm.
NFL draft and I was speaking to a number of people, and every single major sponsor is an alcoholic brand. And it begs the question, you're seeing more and more media outlets that are now starting to endorse a lot of THC beverages. But
Mhm.
I would think, like, as we grow in time, like, yes, those are conversations to have. But I think today it's all about incremental steps, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a step in the right direction. And it's with that comes a lot of responsibility too. And
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
responsibility there. And I want to see my state of South Carolina move this thing forward in a responsible manner as well. I mean, there's some really great legislation that's happening. And of course, I've got States Reform Act, so I'm going to be
Yeah.
looking at how does this affect our bill, if at all, safe banking, all those things. How does this affect things moving forward? And so, what's the next goalpost after
Yeah.
this? And then it's the timing of when this thing happens.
Yeah. You're
Do,
getting
do,
great, a
do
lot
do
of
you see
great
the
comments.
voices? Yeah,
Go ahead.
absolutely. Do you see the voices also getting louder in terms of, well, Schedule 3 is good, but it's not deep enough. We need to go full
Yeah,
descheduling
well,
or legalization.
yeah, and that's what States Reform Act is. States Reform Act is a
Yeah.
completely descheduling bill because the only way you really solve this issue long term is to completely
Yeah.
deschedule it and then put states in the driver's seat. That is the way that I see that would happen, so that it's not the federal government shoving a one size fits all on THC. That states get to have some sort of say, and I think that
Yeah.
is the best way forward to do it in a bipartisan manner, because otherwise you're going to have the left shoving high taxes, regulations that don't make sense, or in some cases like the MORE Act, there's really not a regulatory structure there, and there ought to be,
Yeah.
because there's TTB involved, there's medical involved, like FDA. There are different agencies that would be involved in cannabis at the federal level, so you want to make sure there's a regulatory structure, which is again why I'm so proud of the States Reform Act, because it gives regulatory structure to different agencies depending on the uses. It gives power and authority to states, and it does it in a way that respects all views. It respects everybody, whether they're pro or against. It respects all views and protects kids, protects veterans, protects those
Yeah.
who are terminally
From
ill
a
and sick, etc.
from a grassroots point of view, is there
Mhm.
anything that our viewers can actually do to get behind the States Act or let their representative know?
They need to call,
and make sure they're aware.
Yeah, make appointments with their member of Congress, call and email, flood the phones, like flood their offices, and ask their member to get on the States Reform Act. I mean, I don't care who does it. I mean, if someone else, some other Republican or other Democrat wants to do their own version of it, it doesn't really matter. It's literally the best bill, regardless of scenario, regardless of your political affiliation. It's the best, most pro-American, pro-states, pro-Republican, Democrat cannabis bill out there. I mean, there's no other way to do it except for through States Reform Act.
Yeah. Representative Mace, I have to ask you, as we do this questioning period, it's going to be a few months down the process. We've kind of had some people on to better understand the timeline of it all. Regardless of who wins the election, let's say in this case, Trump were to win the election come next fall. Do you think now that we've begun the process that he would fully endorse that? Like, what's your feeling on a new administration potentially coming in and fully endorsing what's been started? Or like we said on a podcast yesterday, there could be some risk that this could stop by the end of the calendar year. But is there any belief? Do you believe that will happen? Or do you fully think that we will get the support and continue in that direction?
Yeah, I can't speak for Donald Trump. I hope that he will endorse this process and endorse the rescheduling because it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I won't speak for him, but I know in the past that he has supported medical cannabis. That was the middle ground that he took when he was president based on public statements. And so, of course, I obviously am supportive of that endeavor. And I hope that there will not be any roadblocks in any administration because this just makes the most sense. And look, like I have a member of my family who's suffering from Parkinson's. I have another member who's suffering from cancer. And I've talked to Harvard MDs and I'm like, a gummy with very little THC can make huge milestones, particularly in Parkinson's patient, in protecting the brain and slowing it down. For the cancer patient, that's really obvious of what it can do. I mean, I just see this being a huge, huge milestone. And again, it's just timing. Like it's past time. Let's do this and let's help patients everywhere across the country.
Well, you bring up a very good point. It's all about the data, and the data today does not align with people's perception of what this cannabis has been viewed at for the past 50 years. And I think that's the biggest thing that we have to stop, pause, and say, okay, if that's the question that you want to basically ask, let's look at the data to see if that's backed up. And it's so far from the truth. But big announcement today, small but big step in the right direction. And I think most importantly for Americans, they probably feel like their voice is being heard that fully support this industry. But, a lot of great comments here right now and a lot of people supporting you. And I have to applaud you for the efforts that you've made towards this. So appreciate it very much.
And we're going to keep the pressure on and everyone needs to keep the pressure on members of Congress and senators too, to keep this thing moving forward.
All right. Well, we're heading back to Washington in 2-3 weeks. So hopefully we can.
I hope I see you guys next time. I hope I can see you next time you guys pop over.
Yeah, but your team has been great. I really appreciate you last minute jumping on here today. And again, from all of us on behalf of the industry and here at TDR, we applaud the efforts that you give and please keep in touch.
Of course. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you for all you do.
Well, step in the right direction to say the least, but great for her to come on. I think we reached out to her 45 minutes before this podcast, but you see, this is what we're trying to build, a community.
We've got access. We've got access. We don't look like crazy people.
No, exactly.
Saying that rescheduling is coming. I mean, I think that I don't want to put a damper on anything, but we got a long road ahead of us. We got a lot of work ahead of us. I mean, there's going to be some speed bumps, but I mean, to actually know that the DEA has a proposed rule to remove or to reschedule cannabis to Schedule 3. That's currently with OMB review and could be hitting the Federal Register here this week. That's monumental. That's what we've all been working towards in a collective effort. So, I mean, it's great. It's great to see this finally moving forward.
Well, before we're actually going to have Don Murphy coming up in just a moment. Last I checked, what was Canopy up based off the announcement?
Canopy is up 68% right now.
68. MSOs was up
68%. I mean, full disclosure, I actually bought $17 calls on Canopy when it was up about 30% today. So I'll be keeping those for some time.
MSOS is up what?
MSOS is up 25%. MSOX is up 50%. I mean, the names are moving. The screen actually looks funny, to be frank. These moves These moves are real.
Lance Finlayson writes, I'm pissed. I have to buy Anthony a steak. Yes, you do.
He does. And yeah, I also bet somebody $500 last week that S3 would be this year.
Yeah.
So
and
that bet stands as well.
And you know who proved to be right? Christopher Brady. Right? Meow. And yes,
today's the
we
day.
Finally got it. Today's the day,
Today's
Christopher.
The day. That man is correct. So congratulations, Chris. I hope you are reaping the benefits of your conviction.
Cleve Noise writes, take me out to the ball game. The first inning starts today. Indeed, it does. Oh my God. I cannot believe I woke up this morning and it was like, here we go. The daily grind is reaching out to a few people and they're just like, hang in there, buddy. Keep working through all the noise.
So I saw it on Twitter and the stocks hadn't moved yet. Someone tweeted MSOS is halted. I then look at my screen. MSOX is up 25%. And then a little orange bubble pops up and says, cannabis rescheduling has been accepted by the DEA. I didn't even read anything else. I just started hitting the buy button.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, but
Midnight just posted Tilray trading almost 150 million shares. Wow. All right.
I mean, Canopy is at 970. Yeah, no, $910 million. It's traded today in stock.
Wow. Well, we knew this day was going to come. How long it'll live, who knows? But I don't even want to think about that. Let's just focus on the here and now. And speaking of the here and now, let's bring in the man.
All right, sir.
Washington, D.C. Oh, he's back on. There he is. Good day, sir. How are things?
Well, if you're a patient, things are excellent.
Aren't they?
And apparently they're excellent if you're an investor too. So good news all around.
Yeah. I asked the question right off the top with Representative Mace. And I know you've talked about this and a lot of the initiatives that you've been doing and the effort that you've been making on Washington. But, I do know that you focus a lot on safer banking, but this also is a monumental moment, I think, for the industry. It's a step in the right direction. But how big, put it into perspective as to how big this announcement is.
I honestly don't know if we'll know how big it is for some period of time. It's really big to me. It's really big to anyone who's a patient or has been a patient. It vindicates what they've believed for years. It keeps them from being criminals, and rightly so. I don't honestly right now, I can't comprehend the magnitude of what just happened, even though basically for a year, we saw this coming. I saw it coming. And, I'm happy that it actually happened because I was like, everybody else starting to wonder, but here we are. So it's a great day to be a patient and advocate, unless you're Project Sam, I suppose, but they'll probably rake in some dough. So, probably not so bad for them either.
It's kind of poetic that out of anybody that predicted Schedule 3 being announced, Kevin Sabat was the one that was correct.
Yeah, except he's blocked everyone, so no one actually heard him say it. So I don't think it counts.
I know it's. I hope he's crying somewhere in a room with Luke and the rest of the other guys. But I mean, reality is Kevin's probably on the phone right now with his attorney. He's getting a lawsuit teed up to fight this, which I mean I'm sure will knock out. But yeah. I mean, now it's go time for us and it's go time for them.
Yeah. Sadly, I'll say, I think, and this goes for a lot of advocates in all kinds of business, industry, whatever. Bulls make money, bears make money. You make money when bad things happen if you're in advocacy sometimes. And so this is probably the same for them. But anyway, I don't want to talk about them. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. They're calling you the Don.
So
Don, you're a saint. Everything.
Don, how does this catalyze SAFE? Do you think that this starts to put momentum and put wind at the sales of SAFE?
Dude, no? you have to ruin it. Like, I'm only in for 4 minutes and you're ruining it already. I said this before, so I'll stick with my previous statement. It kind of undercuts the need or the perceived need or the momentum that we have. I actually believe that, and others do too. This isn't just me. I talk to people who say, look, we'd rather have SAFE first for this very reason. But anyway, let's celebrate today, guys. Come on, we'll talk about SAFE tomorrow.
I know. So I gave you a call probably around 1:00, basically gave you the heads up. But if you had any conversations down in the Capitol right now, based off the announcement in the last couple hours, any feedback you want to provide or anything that's been, you've been hearing while you've been down there?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, I didn't take your call because when I was actually having lunch with a person and I didn't look at my phone for an hour. And like I should have predicted that the DEA, that this information would drop while I was not looking at my phone. And I chose to be a good lunch date. And, I was not looking at my phone. And then you called. I'm like, yeah, no, I can't. And then I call you and like, you tell me. So anyway, but like, look, the DEA didn't actually make the announcement, right? It leaked. So, I don't know, but we probably should have thought this thing through a little bit more, but who cares? It happened. I didn't care when, I just cared that it happened. And I'll be honest, I'm sitting outside when I could be talking to you from the rotunda, but I couldn't talk to you from the rotunda with my sunglasses on. And the reason my sunglasses are on is because I was sitting in a committee and people were posting all these great things. And they said, like, how do you feel? I'm like, well, I really feel honestly like crying for all these reasons. And then people started posting all this great stuff. Then I started really welling up. And then like Elizabeth Warren's looking at me and Rick Scott's looking at me. I'm like, I got to get out of here. So I'm not trying to be cool. I'm just not trying to be like,
honestly, Don,
like
that's class act for obviously saying that. And I think that's incredible. I think on behalf of Anthony and I and everybody that's been watching this podcast, a ton of support and a ton of respect for what you've done. And I know there's a few people here that's, outlined in a couple comments as to how humble you are. But, when we came down there a couple of weeks ago, we got a real idea and taste as to like how much work, the effort you put in, the energy that you have, and just, not taking no for an answer. But that's great to hear that this obviously day means a lot. And, especially all the efforts that you put towards this. But obviously people leave some comments and likes and, a lot of respect, obviously, for Don for what he's done.
Well, let me just sort of clarify, just because I don't want to take credit for stuff I didn't do, but I have very little involvement with the DEA. Like I pushed back on them for years, but I didn't make this decision in any respect, and nobody was listening to me at the DEA anyway. But the political stuff, and I think I've helped maybe tamp down some of the animosity or the vitriol or whatever from one side or the other, even to say to the left, their heads are exploding right now. This is not enough for them. And I wish they understood maybe what it's like to be a patient in a way that they don't or consider patients right now. That's what really matters. Yeah, it's not going to save everyone from arrest. You just can't do it. There's the story about the kid picking up the starfish on the beach and throwing them back, and the grandfather all washing up, and the grandfather says, what are you doing? You can't make a difference. And the little kid throws the starfish back and says, well, I made a difference to that one.
Yeah, that's a very good example, to say the least. Moving forward,
to fight another day for the advocates, and let's just take the win and just be happy for 24
years. I know that's Ricky and Jim McMahon. They're going to actually be coming back to Washington in a couple of weeks. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is the plan,
Nice.
but you know how plans go. But I know Ricky has a meeting with the vice president. It may or may not be on this topic, but this topic comes up all the time, right? It's just the great thing about cannabis policy is you can inject it into almost anything. For example, the FAA just took the license of a guy who was flying cannabis to some remote island in Alaska. Well, guess what? Now cannabis is germane to the FAA bill, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
well, this has been awesome news here this afternoon. But kudos to you, as I said before, and on behalf of everybody here. Like, I think we very much appreciate everything that you've done. Anything else you want to bring up, Anthony, or ask? Or
I'm just kind of I'm just happy. I mean, I'm mimicking Don. I mean, I was kind of numb when I saw the when I saw the headline hit. I was like, wait, you really? It's actually happening. It was it's still a function of just taking it all in.
Yeah,
I really don't think we'd prepared ourselves, right?
No.
Like nobody. Look, if this, and I stay out of the whole market thing, but if the market shot up like this, then nobody believed it was going to happen, right? Or they'd already been in, I suppose.
Yeah.
So what do I know?
All right, sir. We'll let you run, but appreciate you checking in for like 5-8 minutes here and giving us an update. But again, thank you again for everything you've done. And, good day for us, I think, for people that follow this industry. And as usual, we'll follow up with you later this week and hopefully have you on the podcast either by the end of this week or early next week to talk more. Okay.
Look forward to it. Congratulations, gentlemen.
All right.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks,
Congratulations
Don.
as well.
Class act. Absolute class act. Just
Absolutely.
can't get enough of him. Well, let's keep the star-studded lineup going. Let's now welcome in. He is the president of the Cannabist Company Holdings, Jessie Channon, to the podcast. Good day, sir. How are you?
How are you, sir?
What's up, guys?
What's up with you? How are you feeling?
Busy day. Little
crazy day.
Yeah, things got a little wild, but I think it's I think we're all excited. I haven't gotten a bad call or text yet, so I think it's
no.
These are one of the days you enjoy.
Yeah, it's going to be nice when it prints in the register and it's there to just look at and go through and
no question. No question. I mean, I think you have to sort of take a step back in moments like today, right? And it's you always think about when you come from startups or when you come from early companies, you always joke around that behind every overnight success is years of hard work and sacrifice, dedication, right? And so today is the sort of day that you look at and you say, this is a significant stepping stone towards the path that we know that it's inevitable that we're going to be walking down. This is just a reinforcement of a very clear and inevitable path towards normalization, towards federal regulation, right? And so, you have to sort of be careful in these moments to not overstate the significance of what it is, but it's significant on its own merit that this is a very clear signal that we are continuing down the path. This train is at the station.
Well, Representative Mace
we're not all crazy.
Yeah,
we're not what we are, but
we are. Yeah.
It's so polarizing, though. And I think Representative Mace, she said earlier in this podcast, is just we have to basically dive into the data as to what we're basically seeing today. And a lot of perception in Washington pertaining to this industry never really existed. But I think, if anything, today's announcement where I've said, like, it finally feels like American people feel like their voice is being heard. And I think that's probably the most important thing. We can talk about business and opportunity, but we just want selection. As I said, I was down at the NFL draft last week, and everywhere you turn, there's a major alcoholic sponsor, which, doesn't surprise me whatsoever, but one can only fathom and hope one day that we see a lot of cannabis beverages that are involved in that. And everybody I talked to said, look, I believe with the basically poll that came out last week where 3 out of 5 Americans believe cannabis consumption is safer than alcohol. One guy actually even said, I've dealt with a happy stoner and I like dealing with them more than a drunk asshole. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually probably a good point. But regardless, outside of that, the message is getting clear and the momentum continues to build. And I think today's a great example of that.
Yeah, it's I had a very similar conversation when we were all down together in Florida with a friend of mine. When I was in college, I was a bouncer at bars, and the smell of whiskey was way more prevalent than the smell of our products when it came time at the end of the night to deal with trouble. So I agree. I think it's inevitable. But look, this to me is so unbelievably significant because this clears the path for a couple of things that I think are transformative for us as an industry, not just as a business. I know investors are excited. I mean, I'm watching like you guys are. I see what's happening. It's great. Long way to go for us to be normalized, right? This is research now on the horizon. This is freeing up the opportunity for more when it comes to that. This is freeing up a pathway for us as legal, safe, and tested product to be able to deduct normal sort of business expenses and in turn create a sort of a commercialization effort that allows us to be competitive, if not better priced than gray market and illicit products. So, these are the things that ultimately create a marketplace that I think patients and consumers are asking for. When you see this level of support for these initiatives, it's not just because, people love the products, which they do. And, they want to get, they want to have fun, but also because there are people who need these products, who want to make sure their access to it is protected in a safe and tested and reliable format. And those days are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Don was right. I mean, this is obviously a big win for all of us. It's a big win for people that are economically involved, but it's an even bigger win for the patients, people that actually need access and that are going to gain benefit from the studies that can be conducted on a go-forward basis, which is a huge part of this.
Yes. Who's watching? I'm watching. We should call this rescheduling day every day. Jesse, your stock finished up over 40% on the day.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Let's do this every day. That sounds great. 40% day over day sounds pretty good to me. Look, the reality is, though, we, not just us as a company, an industry as a whole, I think everyone knows days like today sort of show, there's enormous torque in the name for cannabis. We've obviously had a bunch of overhangs. We're dealing with a lot of things, the change in leadership, the change in sort of strategy and culture moving forward. Yeah. That takes time to flow through, right? A couple good prints in a row help to provide, some more reasons to be in and to sort of make that bet. But catalyst moments like today, obviously, I think, right size our sort of stock more significantly than others in a lot of cases.
Get a lot of positive comments here. Christopher Batty writes, coming soon, world peace. But yeah. Everybody's happy.
When our earnings are you guys are printed May 9th?
Yeah.
The earnings in the conference call. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So right around the corner. I think this sets up very well for more favorable conversations, more positive outlooks overall. But look, it's a good day to be excited, and I'm glad we're seeing the momentum in the markets, because I think that there are still a lot of people in our name and in others that put a lot of their hard-earned money in and trust us to put it to work, and we still got a long way to make up. So
look, I know you're not dependent on these announcements, but as a company, this does a lot for you, I would think. I'm not saying that, we're still a lot of things we still got to figure out, but heading in the right direction. I know some of the sentiment when we sat down with your team, obviously down at Benzenga a couple of weeks ago, you could really see the page has been turned. It's like a new era within the industry, and stuff like this has got to really help build and mold your story even that much more, knowing the lucrative states that you're in. But a big day, don't you think?
It's a really good day. And look, I think Florida was, I've said this now for, since we got back from it, it's the most optimistic that I've seen our industry and one of our events in quite a while, right? I think everyone cautiously optimistic at the time. I think, probably more optimistic now. But there was a lot of energy there that I think people know that companies are focused on the right things. The management teams that are in place are focused on the right executions. We have some tailwinds that are going to be for us now. I think you're seeing one of them today. I think there's more to come, obviously. I mean, I look forward down the road on this. Obviously, there's going to be a comment period. 60 days after that, I think we're hopeful that, a couple months down the road, we have this rule in place, and we're entering the next year in a very different position as a company, as an industry. And that's incredibly exciting.
Yep, that's for sure. Some of these rumors, it's nice to see some of the rumors actually be accurate and true. And I think that's where you're like, is this really happened? Did I really hear this? But it's a reality. And to your point, like, these things don't happen overnight, but if you stick with it, it's exciting to say the least, right?
Yeah. And look, I mean, it's exciting to be here with you guys. I did see a name right before I jumped on. I was watching and I saw a name pop up earlier, someone who I finally got to meet in person when I was in Florida. So shout out to Jungle Java. I got a hug when I was down in Florida.
She's great.
I saw this on today. So good to meet you.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the most well-liked people in the overall cannabis space, Jessie Channon, president of the Cannabist Company Holdings, along with Jungle Java. You can't ask for a better, nicer person within the industry, just a good overall person. But listen, I know you're busy, but great day to say the least. And most important, they're going to follow up with you next week after your earnings, get a full in-depth report. And we'll make sure to reach out to our viewers if any questions they want to ask you. But good luck with obviously everything. And again, congrats, obviously, in the industry for the announcement today. And let's keep in touch.
Great to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Talk soon,
all right.
Sir.
Thanks, Jesse. All right. We will keep things motoring along. And here is our next guest, who is no stranger to Washington at all. And obviously building what a great story down in Florida. Let's welcome in a friend of the podcast, Mr. Brady Cobb. How you doing? What do you think about this announcement today? Like, come on, man. This is great, is it not? I think you're on mute. You're on mute, my friend. Sorry.
Muted. I'm kind of where Anthony was.
Yeah.
You know, the proper dab hit. I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I didn't chase around someone around my office when I saw it come through for cutting onions. There might have been a few tears shed because
I bet
anybody that's been in this a long time, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Jessie and his team, you know, and the OGs that, you know, there's a lot of us, and it was a really cool event. I think Todd Harrison wrote about it at Benzinga, Weldon's Mission Green. And I looked around the room after we went and burned one and just kind of stared. There's a lot of fucking survivors in that room.
Yeah.
You know, Jason Wild, Charlie, Boris, Matt Darren, myself, Todd. You know, there's a lot of people in that room that had, you know, been through Emily, a lot of shit, and we're still here. And today was just, for me, the first person I could think about was my dad. You know, what would he think of today?
Yeah. I wanted to ask you that.
It's just fucking crazy to me.
What do you think he'd say today if your dad was around?
He was a pretty cocky guy, so he'd say, "I fucking knew it." I think that's exactly. We used to always tell him he was just 40 years ahead of his time. So, you know, this to me is, I've got a lot of amazing text messages from people today. You know, when I jumped into this industry headlong, you know, I was one of the few voices up in DC that was out there willing to stick my neck out and kind of go do it and work on the Republican side of things. And then, you know, work both sides. But I've gotten, you know, it's amazing. As tough as we all are on each other in this industry, it's been amazing. You know, I got a lot of amazing messages today, and there's been so many people. I mean, the guy you had on a few minutes ago, Don Murphy, is a fucking legend. What that guy has done to keep the ball moving. And I'm glad you guys got to go up there and see what it looks like. It's not just hiring lobbyists and sending them to DC. You actually got to do some work.
Oh man, that guy does work. And he does the work.
Oh yeah, it's primarily in the shadows. It's truly in the shadows. It's in the hallways, coffee shops, and atriums that you get most of your work done. The decision's already made most of the time by the time you walk into a hearing room. So it's you know, this is probably the biggest moment in cannabis reform history. This is it. This is,
you think, you know, this is the biggest moment.
Biggest moment. There's more to come. And I've always said this, and I said this on, I think last time I was on with you guys when we talked about this. For me, the real work starts today.
Okay.
Because what do you mean? Now we have to shape what the next 3 or 4 moves look like, meaning rulemaking, comment period, any litigation that flows to potentially try to slow it down. And then more important, none of us want that to be the final landing place. You know, this is for a full deschedule or decriminalization, ultimately to be regulated and treated just like alcohol. But all of my partners in the alcohol industry and big names were my first phone calls today. Like, hey man, and we know this is a big one. You know, for us these are generational alcohol families. Like we know what this one feels like. We had this moment in the 30s. You know, so this is huge. You know, I've been really pretty critical of President Biden throughout this entire process. And, you know, in my tweet today, I owned it. You know, I thought the timing took way too long. I hate that politics made it take this long. Yeah. But I will give credit where credit is due. Yeah. He did it. I can't take it away from his administration. They fucking did it. But now the real work's going to begin. The devil's in the details. And that phrase has never had more kind of sincerity than it does in what we have in front of us for months. But this is it, man. And validates a lot of the pain and absolute suffering that we've gone through in building Sunburn. And, you know, we'll wait to see what happens with adult use here in Florida. But that's the reason I went off the sidelines and came back in at the worst possible time known to man, raising money when the publics were down 80%. This is why. Yeah. Getting some great comments about your company. That's for sure. But I think I'm learning a lot here today with you, with Don, and for some of the people I've been speaking with, like how much emotionally this actually means, because as you said, like I've been involved in this industry for 3+ years and I feel like I've aged about 20, but you guys have been involved for what, 10, if not more. Like it's a grind. And I remember so the last time we had a federal headline like this, I remember right where I was driving to the office and the Cole memo, the rescinding of the Cole memo happened in January. What was that? 2021. I remember right where I was. Or excuse me, January 17th. I remember right where I was. Driving to work in my car at Broward and US 1 in Fort Lauderdale. and the whole world ended. I mean, there was billions of dollars of market caps that were erased inside of the first 15 minutes of trading. So
yeah, it was nuts.
You've been through stuff like that. You know, I had a short report when I got my, first real moment in the sunshine, which was more like a moment in a misery, more like an insane asylum moment.
Yeah.
So to go through when you actually I'll sit on my dock tonight and smoke a joint and think about the various different twists and turns. And it's a wild industry, man. And to see so many people still standing, it's pretty impressive. But this is without question. This one is for people like Weldon Angeles, who had to go to prison for a plant. It's going to help everybody's P&Ls. It's going to help, it's going to help some, not all. It's going to help some of these companies that are in trouble. But this is it's going to help people's portfolios. I'm sure today was a nice day to open up your E-Trade account. But this is for people that today is special for me. And I had tears in my eyes for guys like my dad and for guys like Weldon and for everybody else that has ever gone through this. Anybody in Florida, I mean, Florida's got a unique history with cannabis smuggling. A lot of people my process of launching Sunburn have reached out and talked about their experience with the federal government. This is for them. This is more for them than it is anybody chasing a P&L.
Yeah, an hour ago, I basically went on to Google and I basically typed in some of the news that I wanted to prep for today's show. But BBC, NBC, CNBC, it's now scrolling on the banner of CNN. Like, this has gone full mainstream.
It's going everywhere.
It's.
This will be
when your in-laws start texting you. Is this the time to buy? I'm like, you sons of bitches.
Yeah, I had people texting me a couple weeks back. They're like, "So, sir, how do I get involved in cannabis?" I go, "Guys, I told you 6 to 8 months ago. And to be honest, if you're asking me the question, you probably don't watch the podcast. And if you don't watch the podcast, I don't have time to be giving you financial advice. So I will talk to you soon."
Yeah. Got a comment here.
Outside table at Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Somebody just asked, what is your favorite strain to celebrate tonight?
It will be ChemD this evening.
Okay.
ChemD to numb the senses. It will be ChemD this evening.
Wow. Well, one thing I've noticed, and I've learned through this industry, it's just, I can't believe the amount of passion, effort that people put into this industry. It's like almost to the point where this needs to succeed or I'll die trying. And that is probably a lot of people that are involved in this space that have been around long enough can probably understand and relate when you make a comment like that. Because I've never come across an industry with so much like the effort, the passion, how interested it is. And like, look, let's face it, this industry is filled with like top executives of former CPG industry or companies. And I think that's what creates such a tremendous upside as to like where this industry is going to go, because this is a lifestyle change. We look at COVID and how we've changed our lifestyle, the way we work and the way we consume stuff. I think it's right on par with that. And I think it's a major shift in the way our world's operating and the way we, maybe want to celebrate good times or even for medical benefits. But like, that's the upside to this industry.
Yeah.
The upside is so big. We're in the second inning of a game. We don't know what the true, it's a $20 billion industry on its way to 50. What does that mean? It's a disruptive category that in health and wellness, when you see 3 out of 5 Americans say they prefer cannabis to alcohol, and you have the FDA come out and say cannabis is less dangerous than alcohol as from an impact to your body standpoint. Like, these types of things don't happen in a vacuum. If you think the board and management at every major alcohol company or every major CPG figuring out a cannabis strategy, you're dreaming.
Yeah, they do.
And a strategy is not just going and buying, dying beer brands like Irwin's been doing, like a true strategy. And this is all happening. It's been happening.
Yeah.
So we're on the frontier here. Not everybody's going to win. Choose wisely. But at the end of the day, now we all can at least enter the playing field when this work is completed and be on of having this massive Schedule I federal overhang over us. Yeah. I don't think I could underscore the importance of that. We've been competing with alcohol. And by the way, we've been stealing share in states where it goes either medical or adult use. We've been stealing massive amounts of share. They have billions on their balance sheets. The cannabis companies have millions. They have a 70-year head start with no federal problems. We have federal problems and 15 years of playing catch up. And we're beating them even despite that. What happens when we're on the same playing field?
Yeah. Well, we're about to hit the 2,000 mark on our live stream today. It's our biggest audience ever, and I can understand why. But before I let you go, I know when we saw you a couple weeks ago down at the Bazenga conference, the next day, actually, you had a brand opening at your one dispensary location down in Miami. How'd that go?
It went great, and we actually just followed it up a week later with our Tampa store too. So we opened a really
nice.
Cool.
Saw that.
So they're both going great. New patient numbers are ramping, and people are starting to feel the burn. So it's been exciting.
Cool. Well, when I move down to Florida, we're going to open up our podcast studio at one of your dispensaries. Is that cool? Just down in Miami?
I have a podcast studio. We're launching a podcast. I'm actually going to have you guys come on it. We're launching the Good Old Boys podcast. We built a little studio right at one of our at our marketing office here in Fort Lauderdale. So yeah, next time you're down, let's get you guys in here and have some fun.
All right, I'll tell that to my wife.
I'm about 5 minutes from that office, so I look forward to being on.
I wish I could meet you guys at Sardelli's tonight for a ribeye, because that sounds like a good time to say the least.
Yeah, yeah, that would be quite good indeed.
Listen, like all of our guests here today, thanks for coming on the short notice, and happy for you. Happy, obviously, for your dad, and obviously for everybody involved in your company. I know you're building a great story. You've got a Class A team that really understands what the plant and what the industry is all about, which this industry desperately needs. But with that, you're building a storyline, which is in a lot of ways building a brand, and you can understand what this industry, how it's going to unfold and develop. And I know you're building a great story. And by the way, Sunburn is not a client of ours. I'm just speaking facts. So, Brady, appreciate the time.
Thanks as always, guys. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Jungle Java, love you, Brady. Yes, the win-win. The stocks are hot.
Yeah, I was saying it earlier. It's funny that Guap is driving around Scotland somewhere and probably has no idea what's going on right now.
He's probably like, I got to get home.
It's pretty funny.
Oh man,
it'll be interesting to get him back next week.
Yeah, John Lee, the cannabis is still undervalued. It was up over 40%. Someone called Guap's sat phone and tell him he can relax for another week or two. Yes, best day ever.
Canopy's moving around all over the place after hours, so it should be interesting tomorrow morning as well. See how this continues.
Well, what can obviously help, as I said, when you got banners running on CNN, as much as I hate the network, but when you're getting those kinds of like exposure, it's big news to say the least. But
yeah, it's also an opportune. I mean, marijuana moment just got to help us out a little bit. Tom just dropped an article about DeSantis saying he's getting involved in the effort to defeat the marijuana measure in the state of Florida.
Yeah, but if I was a betting person, the guy that we just had on, I think with his connections and influence, I think he'll probably, hopefully.
Well, I mean, there's not much DeSantis can do. What's he going to do? Go fill out 1 million ballots and vote it down?
Yeah, but what I was saying
I don't see his influence really. I don't see him influencing public perception as far as it is. I mean, the Floridians want adult use cannabis. I mean, I'm confident that even with DeSantis's involvement to the contrary, we'll still get adult use cannabis when the voters turn out at the ballot boxes in November.
Get Brady Cobb and him in a room for an hour. He'll change his stance. Canopy is close to doubling today, said Patrick Schwartz. That was at 411. It's bouncing around after hours, you said?
Yeah, bouncing around after hours. It's up 78% today total.
Gord writes, I could listen to Brady all day. Wealth of knowledge. This has been good. All right, we're at 49 minutes. We we tipped the 2,000 mark on our live stream today. That's our biggest audience ever. So hopefully this is a sign of things to come. I don't have to say this to everybody that's out there. Honestly, I appreciate Anthony and I love the idea that you guys came on here today. And again, we're going to create content for all of you that are watching this right now. And, utilize obviously the network that we have, because we're basically a platform and a voice for all of you to get you questions and feedback that you guys all want to know. And we'll bring on big name guests. So as usual, as I've always said before, make sure to leave lots of comments, share this video with your network. Let's take this viral, because the bigger that this goes, the more opportunities that we have to make this industry grow. And let's face it, these stocks will obviously climb up. But, most importantly, I'm happy for Americans today, knowing that their voice has been heard, which is badly needed for a long, long time.
Yeah. Which leads, it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah. Before I go, one last question. I didn't ask you this. For a guy from Florida that's been following this space for a long time as well, and I know you're one of the OGs, what does today mean to you?
It's great. It's just, it's great. I mean, I was always I never really wavered in my conviction for Schedule 3 actually happening.
Yeah.
We had the HHS, the FOIA request by the on drugs guys. That was a big win. Obviously, I found out about 2 weeks ago that OLC request was a wrap. I mean, everything was pointing towards Schedule 3. My main reservation was that it just wasn't happening. But I mean, I always said late Q1, early Q2, it hit. Now the fight begins. But this is great. It's fantastic. I mean, my portfolio looks nice today. But at the same time, I mean, it's a big win for everybody involved that we've been fighting for years now. And it's finally starting to come to fruition. If somehow this gets wind in safe sales, it's a double whammy. And if we can get people behind the States Act as well, with the fight that Nancy's fighting, and she's not going to stop even if and when we get Schedule 3, we've got a lot more progress and a lot more, a lot further of a place to go down the road than where we are today. This is the starting blocks as far as I'm concerned.
She is a disruptor. She's a disruptor in Washington, but I think it's badly needed, and amen to her, because, you know, she's got a lot of energy, and you have nothing but respect for people that are obviously supporting this industry right now. Midnight, you have perhaps the best comment here today. The greatest woman in the world is Mary Jane. Well said. Yeah,
I have actually a bunch of sunburn on my desk, so it'll be a good evening.
Yeah. That's for sure. Well, listen, enjoy your evening. I don't know if I really want to go. I could talk all day. This is so nice. But listen, again, appreciate all the comments. They've been flowing in. Appreciate obviously the support that everybody's been saying. Caveman, guys, keep up the good work. We'll go back to the drawing board after the show here tonight. We'll figure out who we're going to have on tomorrow. But you go ahead.
Canopy did close trading over $1 billion worth of stock.
Wow.
They traded 1.04 billion, if my napkin math is correct. More than that. I'm just doing it by times 14. Yeah, roughly. They traded over $1 billion worth of stock today.
Wow. $1 billion.
Yeah.
Rochelle Alexander, I love the comments that you always leave. Appreciate it. $1 billion. $1 billion.
What did Tilray do? Oh, shit. Tilray's volume was, but actually, never mind. Tilray out-traded Canopy 4 to 5 to 1. So yeah, Canopy dominated today. Someone might have called that a while ago, but oh well.
I think before we go, Guap, if you can hear us now in Scotland. Guap, if you're watching this tonight, buddy, get home. Get home to America.
Yeah.
What a day. I know what I'm going to do. It's time to light one up. Anthony Burrell and Guap. I'm Shad Dale saying good night.
See you tomorrow, everybody.
What a day. See you tomorrow, everyone. Hey everyone, thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel, because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.